Alright, so this is how we barbecue. You see a couple of briskets there and a couple of pork butts. And here's our nice barbecue smoker. It's real nice. If you look down here, so we cook our barbecue sitting at about 220 to 230 degrees. And it turns out really nice. We smoke our larger meats like the brisket and pork for at least 16 hours, sometimes up to 18 hours, depending on the size of the meat. So the fat cap is up on top. And then down here we got the briskets. Fat cap is on top. That helps keep it nice and moist as it's cooking. Allows the fat to come down and soak and really just kind of marinate the meats as it's going around. Alright, so here's our wood stack. Usually grab about 5 or 6 of these woods and we'll put it in the smoker. Alright, so here's the smoker. This is where we put in the wood. See in there it's a gas fed but wood smoked. So we just throw the wood in there like this. You want to kind of shingle it so that it doesn't burn like you would on a campfire. It gets lit, then dies out and just smokes and smolders for that full time. Always got a nice bucket right there for the ashes. Anyway, there's the bell. Just captures the smoke. So I'll come back out here in a couple hours, and once it's got a good smoke going on, we'll open it up and you can see how much smoke is produced out of this thing. Alright, so it's been going for about an hour and a half. You see right there, it's getting a little bit toasty. Burns for a little bit. And then once the oxygen runs out, then it gets the smoke. So here's what it looks like on the inside. There we go. Nice, good amount of smoke. Alright, here we have the ribs. These are St. Louis ribs. They're different from the baby back ribs. The St. Louis ribs tend to have a little bit more fattiness and thickness to it. They're wider, and then also the bones themselves are a lot more straight. Now the ribs will take about 5 to 6 hours, depending on the temperature of the smoker. I like to have the smoker sitting at about that 220, 225 degrees. We're gonna get the wings in for the day. Just take the wings, we just season them with our special seasoning, barbecue seasoning that we prepared for ourselves. Just kind of layer them out. There you can see we got the brisket, it's about ready, the pork. I already put in the ribs for the day. We got some sausage. We got some ribs that are almost ready to come out. Then I've got our Texas Twinkies. All right. So here we have the brisket and the pork. It's been smoking for about 16 hours. Nice and tender, juicy. They just fall apart. The earlier ribs, they're going to be ready. Sausage is ready. Look at that. So look at here. Look at that little piece that broke off. See that pink? That's part of that smoke ring right there. All right. So here's the wings. See on that, the nice smoky look to them. You can see the sides that don't have the smoke. You know, it's quite a big difference. But still, they've all got that flavor to it. So here we have the ribs. They're not quite done. They look like they're done. They're super close. Don't get that starting to tear. They're not quite there. They're still a little bit undercooked. Oh, look at that smoke. Got some ribs right here ready to come out. When they come out, oh, it's just beautiful. I mean, look at those ribs. Absolutely delicious. Gorgeous. Alright, so I talked about the brisket and how it's been smoking for about 16 hours. Look, it's super tender, super juicy, nice and soft. Just cut right into it, just like butter. You got this right here. This is considered the bark, and it's basically the spices, a mixture of the spices, and just a little bit more dehydrated meat. With the low temperature, we don't actually get much of a bark. But if you look on there, right there, you can see that smoke ring, that pink right there from the smoke. Right there. You don't really see it too much on the fat portion of it, because that's the part that just deteriorates and just becomes part of the bark and shrinks. But it's nice and juicy and tender. Just look at those juices come out of there. All right, so here we have the pork shoulder, pork butt. It's the same thing. You can see it just falls apart as well. Look, there's that smoke ring right there. So if you see, when it's cooked in a smoker, it's a reduced oxygen area. And the oxygen will actually oxidize the meat when it's cooked and turn it more brown. Okay? So one thing you can find out is you know how long the pork has been pulled is by how brown the meat is. If it's pulled right from it, it's quite pink. It's got a beautiful color to it. And then obviously you've got the smoke ring. 16 hours. Barely any effort to pull those apart. The other thing is there's a big difference between shredded pork and pulled pork. This would be kind of considered pulled pork, but if you fully get it into little chunks, little strips, little individuals, that's basically shredded pork. Okay, it's the same pork, same process. It's just been shredded instead of just pulled. This will dry out a lot faster. So if you're going to do this, make sure it's in a moist environment so it doesn't dry out too quickly, or you use it right away. That's another thing you need to worry about when you're doing pulled pork for barbecue. Is making sure that things stay moist. they don't dry out. With the ribs, you want to be able to, you pinch it, you see it start to rip apart, but not fully separate out. Now let's look at this smoke ring right here. The easiest way to cut the ribs is actually flip it upside down so you can see all of the bones. You just cut it in there, look in there, just check out that smoke ring right there. That pink, that's the smoke ring. That tells you exactly how much smoke you've actually given the ribs. The more pink, the more smoke has been there. Then you've got the actual regular looking cooked color on the inside. And again, this is only from about 5 hours of smoking. We always make sure with the ribs to give it a good amount of smoking time, smoke inside of the thing, inside of the smoker.